All right, hi everybody. So today we're going to continue to learn about area. And last week we looked at different rectangles and we counted up the squares or the tiles to find the area. So that was one way that we found area. Today we're actually going to be using multiplication to help us find area, which is going to make it a much easier way for us to find area, especially as the rectangles and the objects become bigger. So our objective is we will be able to find the area of an object by multiplying the sides. So multiplying the length times the width, and I'm going to talk about some of those terms right now. So we have some terms that we need to understand as we learn about area. The first one is area, right? And that means the measurement of space inside an object. So here is my rectangle, and when I try to find the area, I'm trying to figure out how much is this space right here, and that is the area. The length is the distance from one side to another. And we actually use a really, we use a cursive L in math when we talk about length. So this is the length right here of this rectangle. So it's that distance from one side to another. Okay, and it's normally the longer side in an object. The next one is width. And width is the measurement of distance of the side of an object. So this is the measurement of distance of the side of the object. So here's the width right here, and we represent that with the letter W, width. And that's usually the shorter side of a rectangle or of an object. So length and width, those are some new terms for you. In tiling, so last week I referred to these squares as squares. But this week we're going to refer to these as tiling, that we are tiling these squares in rows and in columns to find the area. Excuse me. So tiling means small squares used to make objects. So each of these are tiles. Or if you didn't have these, we can consider each of these squares tiles. Okay, so those are our four terms that we need to know today. So let's talk about area a little bit more. So area is the measurement of space, square units, inside an object. So this is the space inside this rectangle, and we need to find the area or the measurement inside this object. That is the area, okay? We say square units because we don't know if we're talking about centimeters or feet or inches, right? Could be anything. Here we're actually talking about centimeters. So we could say for this one, square centimeters when we put our answer for our product. Last week, like I said earlier, we counted the squares. So we counted each square to figure out what our area was for the rectangles that we were solving for. This week, we are going to be multiplying the sides. So we're going to be multiplying the length, so that's usually the longer side, times the width, which is normally the shorter side. And so here, our length is 4 centimeters. So here's the example down here. It's 4 centimeters. Then I'm going to multiply that by 3 centimeters. So that gives me a total of 4 times 3 is 12 centimeters, right? Now you'll see in some problems, they might have a square up here. Kind of cool, right? A little fancy. That just means square. So when you see a measurement like centimeters or inches or feet, and they have the square on top, like right on the right-hand corner of that, that just means square. So instead of square units, instead of writing out square centimeters, this is a shorter way to write it. So centimeters squared. So does that make sense? So instead of square centimeters, we can just make it really short and put centimeters squared and just put a little 2 on top. Okay, so let's practice this. I'm going to make a rectangle here with my tiles. I'm going to be tiling And then we are going to find the length and the width. So I will actually write them in, and then we'll use a multiplication equation to help us solve. I forgot my marker. So remember, when we do this, we don't want any gaps. Everything should be nice and flush, as best as we can. Okay. So here is my length. So first, and I think I forgot to mention this, is that we're going to use this really cool formula. Ooh, you guys are so smart now. You got a formula. L times W equals area. What do you think, and it's a fancy L, it's a cursive L. What do you think L stands for? What does L stands for? Think back to our terms that we just reviewed. Yeah, L stands for length. So the length of an object. And then what does W stand for? You probably got it. It's width. So that's how we can remember when we're finding area, it's L times W equals area. Length times width equals area. Okay, I'm sorry that I didn't mention that earlier. All right, so let's find our length. Remember, that's the longest side of our rectangle. So the length is what? We're going to count up the square units. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 columns here, right? I have 4 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm just going to put units. I'm not going to say that it's inches. I'll put square units. Okay, so now I found my L, I found my length. Now I'm going to find W, which is the width. And I have 1, 2. I have 2 square units. See, I'm already running out of room, so I should probably do my fancy one that I just learned. And I can do the units and the little 2 on top. Units squared. Okay, now that I know how long the length of my rectangle and I know the width of my rectangle, I get to solve. So I'm just going to plug it in. My length was what? 4. My width was 2. So 4 times 2 is what? 8. 8, but is that it? Is that all I put? No, not at all, right? Because each of these are square units. Actually, I should have wrote that. Let me rewrite it. 4 square units, or units squared, times 2 units. So 4 units times 2 units equals 8 units squared, or square units. Okay, if that looks confusing, don't worry, we're going to do some more. Okay, my eraser. Oh no, I forgot it. Ooh. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, here's our next one. So we need to find, I'm just going to put the units down here because we don't know what they are. So we're just going to call them units. And we need to find the length and the width, right? Oops, sorry you guys can't see that. The length and the width. So what is the length of this rectangle? Well, all I have to do is count it, right? The length is, and the length is the longest side, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 square units for my length. And what's my width? Well, my width is over here, right? So this was 4 square units. And this is 1, 2, 3. My width is 3 square units. So I'm going to put 3 down here. So 4 times 3 is, I can use my multiplication chart, I can skip count. I'm going to skip count. 4, 8, 12. So my area is 12 square units. Or you can put units squared. A little fancier, right? Okay, let's do another one. All right, here's our next one. So I'm finding the length and the width. So let's find the length first. So I'm just gonna put units down here. Okay, so the length is, the length is the longest side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 square units. And then the width is 1, 2, 3, 3 square units. Good, so now I can put those down here in my equation. So my length was 6, my width was 3, 6 times 3 is, let's see, 6, 12, 18. So I have 18 square units for my area. Or if you want to get fancy, which you will have to soon enough, you can put units squared. So 18 units squared. Good job. All right, so now it's your turn. Now I want you guys to get your whiteboards out and we're gonna practice a few together before I have you guys do your independent work on Seesaw. So get your whiteboards and get ready. So pause the video. All right, guys, I'm gonna set up the problem down here. So this is what I want you to do on your whiteboard is I want you to set up the multiplication problem. And I want you to put units underneath each line. And then on the bottom of this one, you're gonna put square units, okay? All right, so once you have that set, if you want to pause and write that down, and then we'll get started. Okay, so we're going to find, move that over a little bit. So remember, this is our formula up here. Length times width equals area, right? Length times width equals area, or our algorithm to be even fancier, right? So let's find the length of this rectangle, the length of it. So the length is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And the width is 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 square units. All right, I want you guys to solve for this one. Pause the video and solve it. Okay, here for your length, you should have put 4, and then your width was also 4, so a perfect square. So now 4 times 4 equals 16. So it's 16 square units. And if you got fancy and you put the units with a little 2 on top, that is perfect. Okay, so this time I gave you the side lengths. Next, I will not give you the side lengths. I want you to figure out the side lengths on your own. All right, so this one you're doing on your own. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can figure out what is the length and what is the width. What do you do with those two numbers to figure out the area of this rectangle? Okay, so let's look at what we have. Let's check out the length, the longest part of this rectangle. The length here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 square units. So I have 6 square units here. There's my length. Now my width is only 2. I'm going to plug those numbers in. 6 times 2 is 12. So my area of this rectangle is 12 square units, or units squared. Okay, let's do one more and then I'll have you guys do your independent work. All right, here's your last one. So find the length, find the width, and then solve for this one. Pause the video when you're done. Or when you're done, unpause. That's what I meant. Okay, so let's solve for the length. What is the length? Well, the length is actually over here, right? This is the longest side. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 square units here. And then the width is the shorter side, 1, 2, 3. It's only 3 square units. So now I can plug those numbers in and find my area. 4 times 3 is, you should have gotten 12 square, oops, I already have units squared in there. Oops, I wrote that wrong. Square units, or units squared. All right, guys, so that's it. It's a really easy, fast way to find the area. All you have to do is multiply the length times the width. That is it. So now you are going to actually be doing an activity on Seesaw. So this is what your assignment looks like today on Seesaw, and you're going to be finding the area of this rectangle. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to find the length of the rectangle. So what's the longest side of the rectangle? You'll count up the squares. So on this length, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I know I have a length of 8. And then my width is 1, 2, 3, which is the shorter side of the rectangle. So I have a width of 3. So then I'm going to count by 3s or count by 8s and figure out what 8 times 3 is. And that will give us our area. Good luck on your assignment.